This administration's handling of this whole Epstein situation has been terrible. Nothing short of that. A lot of even Trump supporters agree with this. And look, it's for various reasons. The context, it really matters. You have Bongino and his rhetoric surrounding the Epstein files initially, as well as Kash Patel. And then once they got in office, they up and changed. You obviously have what happened earlier on with Pam Bundy rolling out these influencers with these binders that turned out to be an absolute nothing burger. And of course, you have Trump continuing to speak on this issue, claiming that the files are made up, calling it a Democrat hoax, and what have you, and really trying to, it seems, to just yell squirrel, like he interrupted Pam Bondi during that one sort of briefing there when someone asked about it, and he's like, are people still talking about this? I covered that. But there's a video that I want to talk about here now. Let's take a look at this, and then I'll give you my thoughts, because yeah, this just doesn't make sense.
President, I know you've urged people to move on, but I'm curious, why do you think your supporters in particular have been so interested in the Epstein story and so upset about how it's been handled?
I don't understand it. Why they were...
So he's saying that he doesn't understand why his supporters are, really asking about this issue.
Would be so interested. He's dead for a long time. He was never a big factor in terms of life.
He was a big enough factor to be around willingly, chatting it up among some of the most powerful people in the world. Trump, you were one of them. I don't think that was that he did nothing. Now, I'm not saying, and I want to be clear, I mentioned this in my last video, that everybody that was seen with him was participating in this whole sex trafficking stuff. I'm not suggesting that at all, but to act like this guy was just nobody when he was always around, as well as Maxwell, around some of the most powerful people, despite just being basically a finance guy, being around all these powerful people is, look, man, people aren't going for that, bro.
I don't understand what the interest or what the fascination is. I really don't. And the credible information's been given.
So, and this is one thing that he's been talking about as of late, where he's basically saying all the information has already been out there. And he's saying that the credible, at least, information has been out there, and all the stuff pertaining to, like, there's a client list or files, he's alluding to those being like fake, made up by Comey, and it was a Democrat hoax, and some of the other guys that had made that stuff up.
Don't forget, we went through years of the Mueller witch hunt and all of the different things, the Steele dossier, which was all fake. All that information was fake. But I don't understand why the Jeffrey Epstein case would be of interest to anybody. It's pretty boring stuff. It's sordid, but it's boring. And I don't understand why it keeps going. I think, well, really only pretty bad people, including fake news, want to keep something like that going. But
that was terrible.
Let them give it. Anything that's credible, I would say let them have it.
So again, he is reiterating, and that's the rhetoric that he's been talking about, credible, right? And the way that he's suggesting, or rather he's talking about it, at least says or suggests that like all the information is out there, and I guess all the stuff that people are looking for is incredible, right? So it's like, yeah, release that stuff, or whether they already have. Now, saying that the people that are basically interested in this stuff, which he describes as keeping it going, are bad people. Again, I don't know who is advising this guy, but I do want to reiterate something. There is a reason, and it's very obvious why people care so much about this, right? It's one of the most blatant examples of one of the more heinous things to it really exist, but most importantly, that it seems to involve a lot of powerful people. Information spreads very quickly these days, and it's not the world of old where folks would just really accept your word for it just because, let's say, even a news outlet covered it. People are now able to access a lot of information, and therefore it's really easy to bring things up. Now, Epstein originally, and I brought this up in my previous videos, people need to understand that in the original indictment, Epstein, as far as this whole sex trafficking thing that was going on, child sex trafficking, again, worst of the worst, there were known and unknown people that were involved, okay? Now, let's assume that implies that it's just Maxwell, right? There's still a whole heap of other people that are involved in this. And folks want to know, mainly because if there is a cabal of very evil people doing some very heinous acts, regardless of whether or not they have an R next to their name, a D next to their name, L, I, doesn't really matter. Whether they're in charge of massive businesses, people want to know, and they deserve to know, who those folks are, if they are, if this is to be a thing, okay? Now, yes, while it may mean that maybe even some of your favorite guys or people that you were at least fond of are part of this, and we talked about this on Sarah Gonzalez's show the other day, actually today, the day that I recorded this, it doesn't matter who's on it. They should all, we should know about it, and they should all be punished for it. Doesn't matter because folks like them. It doesn't matter. Folks don't want their countries being ran by these evil pieces of crap. Now, I already assumed that it's among some of the worst of the worst. That like that working like Congress and such. But again, the reason why people are talking about it in the way that they are right now is because it's such a blatant example of it, and none of it doesn't pass the smell test. Okay, and it's not going to go away. As you see, people are coming for answers. They are, and they deserve to have them. But just from a political standpoint, where you have folks that are bringing this up, and there's always going to be those. I mentioned this before. Look, there are a lot of folks that have they have financial incentive to basically whatever Trump does is 4D chess. He's the smartest man in the world. Trust him, all that, the other stuff. He can do no wrong. Look, we know that. I understand that. That's it. Trump isn't helping himself out on this situation. If this was a 4D chess move where he's trying to force the hands of his adversaries to release something, well, they're going to be the ones that get credit for it. Therefore, they're going to be the ones that can utilize this politically. You're not. So I bring it up because I don't believe that. I don't believe there's some extra 4D chess movie trying to force the hand of the Democrats to do something because they are in opposition to him, and they just take whatever opposite position they're. So he really wants this to be. That's stupid politically. That makes no sense. Because if, let's say, it did get released and whoever it damns, well, they're going to be the ones credited for pushing it. And that's who the American people are going to be like, oh, well, that was your job. That was on you to do it. When what could have happened, right? Well, you could have gotten it, taken credit for it politically, and gone about your business. I don't know who's advising this guy. But if he wants to insist that folks that are, again, basically interested in this and want to know are bad people, again, politically, that just doesn't make sense.